welcome to Fighting Over the VCR. I'm Matthew.
I'm Nancy.
And this week we have kind of a little special episode. We are on family vacation in beautiful Santa Cruz, California. And we decided that this would be a great time to look back at a movie that we grew up watching, that we loved, that was filmed mostly in Santa Cruz, California, The Lost Boys.
And since we are on vacation, we have a special guest with us this week.
Yes, friend of the podcast. Welcome back, our guest, Sherry.
Hello, you're stuck with me again.
We appreciate your presence every time.
We just wanted to go and talk about the film and a couple personal anecdotes about the film and one of the reasons and why we like Santa Cruz so much.
Yeah.
And how much we love vampires.
Yes, this is like one of those, for our generation, this is probably like one of those early vampire movies that like when we were old enough, we were probably old enough to watch it, and because of the age of the people in the movie, you could kind of relate to it more and everything. So I think really for us, this is probably one of those first vampire movies for us that we could really get into.
That we could really sink our teeth into.
Oh my god. Now you're taking my jokes.
This movie came out in 87?
Yeah, 87.
Directed by Joel Schumacher.
Schumacher,
who
yes.
has a very strange array of credits, let's just say.
Yeah, I totally forgot he even directed this movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that this is the guy that turned the first Batman movie franchise downhill.
Yeah.
But, everyone has, their ups and downs and opinions about all Batman movies. I think one of the things that I really enjoyed about rewatching this movie was the first 10 minutes of the movie, seeing all of Santa Cruz in the movie. Now, in the movie, they renamed Santa Cruz Santa Carla, not Santa Clara, which is another city not too far away from here, but Santa Carla. And it opens with them driving up West Cliff Drive, which is famous for having the Natural Bridges Park, and there's the lighthouse, beautiful lighthouse, and
which is now a surf museum.
Yes, it's now a surf museum, and one of the things that and that's just in the opening credits, and I was so amazed seeing this because in 1987, you're watching them kind of drive in this area, and we've been there. We went there a few years ago. And when we went there just a few years ago, along the other side of the highway is all houses. And now you can't see that, or now that's all you see. But in the movie, it is lawn. There's fields behind it. And that was really interesting for me to see just from the opening credits. So I think that I was really kind of intrigued by seeing that and then being able to look at all the different things about Santa Cruz at that point.
Yeah, this movie was really fun to watch, when we were growing up, a lot of it because we had seen a lot of the actors we'd seen a few of the actors and other things, of course we'd seen Corey Feldman in Goonies and Stand By Me. I'd seen Jamie Gertz in a few movies before. I think Less Than Zero came out before Lost Boys. I could be wrong on that. But I'd recognize Jamie Gertz. Kiefer Sutherland, of course, we were...
Stand By Me.
He was also in Stand By Me.
And the thing about, at that point, he was a kind of a bad guy in that. And obviously much younger looking. And then he's a bad guy in this. So I think I just always kind of felt like he was always a bad guy.
Yeah.
In everything. And I know he's now in Designated Survivor.
Which was canceled.
And then revived on Netflix.
And now canceled.
Again?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
So he did not survive.
Well, and of course he eventually played Jack Bauer. So ultimate kind of...
24.
Yeah. He was Jack Bauer in 24, so, Mr. Save the Day.
24.
I watched a few seasons and no thanks.
I am not a Sutherland family fan too much.
At all?
No.
That's only because in one movie you had to see half-naked Donald Sutherland's butt.
No. That's
What
not
movie
one.
was that? Clute?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay. I think it was in Clute. No, it was another movie.
I think,
Anyway.
I think he plays a bad guy well, so I just dislike him. And Kiefer, I'm like, he's all right.
Well, Sutherland played President Coin in the Hunger Games.
He did.
So,
There's that too.
but and this movie had a few fresh faces too. It had Jason Patric. I don't think he'd really done much. He eventually went on, I believe.
Speed 2.
Oh God. Yeah, me too.
He also did a movie called Rush, where he was like an FBI or an undercover agent who
in the drug world.
who in the drug world and then got addicted to heroin.
Yeah, I never saw it. But yeah, this movie was really intense. I mean, it was also because it's set in Santa Cruz, you know, the ocean's there, the beach, you know, the boardwalk, you know, all the settings are really great and really appealing for like a teenager. And of course, we weren't teenagers when we saw this. We were, I think I was 10 when it came out. Yeah. And, but you know, there's the romance, there's this, you know, this allure, there's intense peer pressure, this kind of mystery of, you know, who's that girl, who's this mysterious girl at the boardwalk. You know, here we end up at this concert with this greasy saxophone player guy, and I see this beautiful dark haired girl
playing cheesy 80s saxophone music. Just, it's so bad. Was it something like Do You Believe?
So bad.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
But and of course this movie is very much like a fish out of water story, you know, because they relocated from Phoenix to Santa Carla, and didn't know anyone. Their grandpa lived here, and that's why they moved. But this movie, watching it now let me just clarify. Last summer when we came to visit Santa Cruz, we actually all watched this movie together, and none of us had seen it in probably at least 10 years, right? At least. You know, so we were reintroduced to it a year ago, where we all kind of laughed at how many times they say the name Michael. I think it was 100 at least.
Michael.
I think we looked it up and it was like 150 or something.
It was a lot. It was a lot. Maybe it was more than.
Come on, Michael.
Yeah.
Michael. Be one of us, Michael.
Yeah. In a movie that's an hour and 40 minutes, the name Michael is said far too many times. But, you know, this fish out of water story, because it's Michael and his younger brother Sam.
Played by
Corey Haim. Rest in peace.
This is the movie that began the two Coreys.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. From this movie on, they were linked in a number of different movies that were all questionable.
Yeah.
License to Drive.
Terrible. That movie's terrible. I think I saw that in the theater.
Yeah.
That's terrible.
The middle generation
in the theater.
the middle generation in this movie, their mom is played by Diane Weiss and Edward Herrmann.
Edward Herrmann is her love interest in the movie.
Yeah.
Can I just say that I love Edward Herrmann because I am a Gilmore Girls fan, and watching him,
He can do no wrong.
He's awesome.
He was
Also,
he's
rest
great.
in peace.
Yeah, that was just a few years ago that he passed
Yeah.
away. I always kind of like, because his name was Edward Herrmann, always felt like he could be Herman Munster.
Herman Munster, yeah. I know, I can see that too. I know. It's like he's tall and he's a big guy. Yeah, for sure.
But this movie oozes all the 80s stuff that you expect an 80s movie to have. It's got, like Matt already said, the really cheesy saxophone.
It's almost greasy saxophone in this movie.
It's really greasy saxophone. It's got the really goofy late 80s fashions, especially the guys wearing,
mainly Corey Haim.
Edward Herrmann did too, though. He was sporting some blazers with shoulder pads too, that were bright colors.
And because he worked in the video store, I think he kind of had to have like this certain kind of
edgy look
because I don't think I've seen so much like neon like lighting and everything. I mean, there was tons of that in his store.
Yeah. Within the brothers, you know, Michael, the older brother, is sucked in to this vampire cult, and his younger brother, who's 14.
Okay, this was one of my issues. We're watching this movie, and I'm like, there's a scene where
He's taking a bath?
well, Michael is like, Sam, go take your bath. And he's like in the bathtub doing his whole thing, listening to this cheesy music and singing along to it. And I just turned to Sharon, I'm like, how old is he? Is he 8?
He was listening to the Frog Man.
But, I mean, go take your, he needed a babysitter. I'm like, this kid is about to go attack vampires, and he's driving, and he's like stealing cars and like going to go kill these vampires in this cave with the Frog Brothers. And he's going and he's taking a bath and he needs to have a babysitter. How old is he?
Don't know.
He was probably supposed to be like 14.
I'm going to say 14 because I think Michael is at least 17 or 18.
Well, and they both talk about how they're still in school.
Yeah. So
But
I'm
at
going to
the
say
sa-
Michael is
but-
a senior.
But it was also really confusing though, because at the very beginning of the movie, during the credits, like they're getting gas, and Michael goes up to some random guy like, hey, are there any jobs around here? And he says, none that are illegal. And I'm like, well, wait, is he looking for a job because he's 18 or older, not going to school?
I think it was a summer job.
Maybe.
But who knows? It's this again, Joel Schumacher. You know, I mean, accuracy over detail
There
or
is
attention
not-
to details.
yeah,
I
there's
mean,
not that.
I don't think he cares. I mean, at least we never saw Michael like going to a bar. That would have
No.
been a problem.
No, but he had a level of naivete that was like really bad when it came to the peer pressure of joining
The peer pressure. Oh my God!
Michael, come on.
It
Be
was
one of us.
It was crazy.
Come on, come down to our creepy cave where no one is supposed to live.
Can we talk about the cave for a second? Because
That
of
cave is amazing.
Because of course they have a gigantic poster of Jim Morrison in this cave.
I have that in my notes.
I think of the cool factor, the vampire crew of Kiefer Sutherland and his 3 compatriots, plus Jamie Gertz, whose name in the movie is Star.
Star. What's your name? Star.
And the other little boy,
Laddie,
who Star is like always trying to protect.
Shit, he's like a little kid.
Well, right, but
He's no Kirsten Dunst.
I was just gonna say he's filling the role of Kirsten Dunst in Interview with the Vampire fills.
I wonder if there was like some Interview with a Vampire like inspiration for this movie. Like now that I think about it, I mean, think about like
I don't know when the book was
Lestat.
written.
I think it was before this.
I want to say I'm 82. I'm throwing that out there. I really don't know if that's right.
But
or
like
not, though.
Lestat trying to like make a family and get people together and like that's kind of like what's going on in this movie. I mean, I'm not saying this is a
That's vampire
better-
lore, though. I mean, right? Like,
yeah, I think you're right. That's
Yeah.
give credit where credit's due, right?
Yeah. So this cave, though, let's dig deeper into this cave.
When I was younger, I used to think that I knew where this cave was. Because there was a cave when you are eating on the wharf, like you could see a cave across over there. I used to think it was that cave.
Awesome.
That-
I know. I'm sure it's not.
It'd be cool to like be able to find this cave, but I'm sure the cave does not really exist. It's probably
It's a set, probably.
it's probably one of the few things that they did film in Los Angeles.
Yeah. No,
But the cave is cool.
The cave is very cool.
The cave is cool. It's got like the whole like when you watch the movie, the whole story about how like it was a country club place, a resort that when the 1906 earthquake hit, it sunk
Caved
into the
in,
ground, and
Which 2 years later, the Loma Prieta, which was centered in Santa Cruz Mountains.
2 years later than what?
When the
when the
movie
movie
came
came
out,
out,
so in
yeah.
1989.
Yeah.
Not 2 years after
No,
that.
no, correct.
The whole story, like, and then there's like a fountain. There's all this stuff where it's how it's decorated. I mean, let's just say this: the vampire cult is probably the coolest thing in this movie.
Yeah.
Clearly, I mean, Kiefer Sutherland with his bleached blondish mullet, with the spiky mullet, and like the like very kind of like monotony voice that he has, and everything like that. that, and then his crew, one of which is the blonde, which was in Thrashin'.
Yeah.
And everyone, and
Alex Winter.
And Alex Winter, who is from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
I don't know if the Death by Stereo guy was in anything.
Nothing that I know of note. He was probably doing like TV or something like that.
Yeah.
Every time I go on the internet to research an actor who I'm not really sure who they are or what they've done, it seems like they've always been in Law and Order or CSI.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Death by Stereo. Also a great band.
They're the best part of this movie. And they have the coolest hangout in the cave.
Hangout?
Yes, that's where they hang. They hang in there.
Okay. Can we just jump real quick to favorite characters? Because Kiefer Sutherland was my favorite character in this movie.
Oh.
David's my favorite.
Kiefer Sutherland is like the clear favorite just because he's probably the best acted.
Agreed.
Best acted. No offense to the other actors, because I think that some of the other actors have done very great things, and some of the actors have done terrible things. He's definitely the coolest. He's the most fun to watch. Every scene that he's in, you're like captivated by, and then every scene that he's not in, you're like going to the bathroom. It's definitely, he's the best character.
Yeah.
My second favorite character in the movie is probably Nanook.
I was just going to say the dog.
The dog.
Who's yours, Sherry?
I like Diane Weiss a lot.
She's
really
great.
great.
She's my favorite.
She's excellent. Her character's name was Lucy.
Yeah.
I'm going to put this out there.
And I like the Coreys. I'm sorry. I mean, I grew up in the 80s. I do.
They're so
cheesy
goofy.
I know they are,
So
but it's terrible.
But let me
But
throw,
it's so 80s for me, though. It's just so nostalgic.
and
terrible.
let me throw out an opinion. Jack mentioned that the Frog Brothers really bring a lot of comedy to
That's
a
right.
very intense,
Yes.
gory vampire movie that is unusual for this kind of film, and they are entertaining.
The Frog Brothers are definitely the most entertaining, and I would say Corey Feldman plays one of the two Frog Brothers,
Right.
and he definitely excels. Like if you were ranking Corey's in this movie, Feldman above Haim, hands down. I don't think there's really any
Sure, I
question
mean, that's
about
probably
that.
always the case for the most part, right?
Probably. I mean,
Except he was doing an extra gravelly voice,
Oh,
which
for
was
sure.
very silly to me.
It was. That threw me off.
I love that though. I love that he was trying to.
But it's funny.
It was like he was talking tough the whole movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
But that was part of their shtick. I mean,
Yeah.
they had a shtick.
But I think for sure though, Matt and I agree that David was written with the most care. Like what he was given to, like what Kiefer Sutherland was given to do, seemed to be what they was. He seemed to be like the favorite character of the writers and the director, because for a majority of the movie, you think he is the ultra villain in the movie. We later find out that he actually isn't, but. And your favorite character is Lucy. She's so great. And, again, she's one of two women in the movie. So it's not like there's a whole host of females to look out for. And she's a really cute mom.
I mean, she's great. And she's so great in Parenthood, too.
I'm going.
Yes.
I'm gonna go as far as say like there's things about Lucy that remind me of our mom.
Oh, yeah. She's very sweet. She's very funny.
Taking care of the family. She's got like this very much like, hey, I'm your friend. Let's talk.
Yeah.
Kind of
Very
vibe.
sweet.
Very, very cool. And I've always the short hair.
Mm-hmm.
The short hair just always kind of reminds me of mom.
But, yes, this movie is definitely very cheesy. I understand why I was so drawn to it as a kid.
Oh yeah. I mean the vampires looked cool.
And they were scary.
And they were kind of scary.
There's some intense gore in this movie, especially when they're all at the house and the Thrashin' guy gets thrown in the bathtub of holy water. Then there's blood bursting out of every pipe and every drain.
I think they wanted to kind of some of the scenes have that like very kind of like overly almost B movie level gore factor.
Yeah,
and which I think is totally intentional, just because
Yes.
it adds to the kind of the fun of the movie.
yeah.
And at one point when Sam meets the Frog Brothers, they talk about like when you kill a vampire, none of them die the same way. Some of them explode, some of them do that. So I mean, they were kind of living up to the whole kind of lore that was being created.
That's also
about
a vampire thing a lot. It's just how much blood just when you.
Although some vampires, sometimes
yeah.
vampires just turn to dust. That's
Yes.
what some of them do in other vampire stories.
Yeah,
but they don't turn to dust here. They turn to liquid on some of them, on some scale.
It's pretty gross.
Yeah. But anyway, I interrupted you. You were saying.
So one of the reoccurring features in this movie is the song "Cry Little Sister" by Gerard McMahon. It opens the movie. It's played several different times throughout the movie, or at least little parts of it are.
Well, definitely, like one of the main scenes where you hear like most of the lyrics is the scene where they're turning Michael, where they're like, "Drink the wine.
Yeah.
It's not wine, it's blood."
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like I never understood that scene.
Me neither.
Before, because like first they're like, "Oh, we're gonna have food," and he's telling him the whole story, and then he hands him a joint and says, "Want an appetizer?" And then so he takes the joint, and then they're eating, and he's hallucinating while they're eating, and I realized at this, now that I'm watching it, as I'm older, I'm like, oh, he probably just thinks he's high and he's having these hallucinations, but they're actually like messing with his head in other ways to trick him into drinking the blood. Mm-hmm. So he becomes the vampire. Yeah. And then he starts to turn, and then the song starts, and that's a really cool scene. Like the editing and everything they do in that scene is great.
It builds a lot of emotion, and it's just it fits this movie. I mean, it just fits this movie. And fun personal story. When I was in high school, a friend of mine and I, we used to participate in our school's annual dance concerts. Every single year, we would choreograph one dance and perform it. We did this freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior years. And in our sophomore year, me, my girlfriend Amy, and two other friends did a dance to this "Cry Little Sister" song.
I remember being in the front room while you were choreographing this, because you had the biggest front room where you could practice this.
Yeah.
Hearing the song over and over.
Yep.
I mean, you think that they repeat this song a lot in the movie. I was living it.
You were living it, and thank God you didn't have any weird wine to drink and to get coarse. But it was really cool. I mean, this is in 92. Yeah. Spring of 92, we did this dance.
Whose idea was it to use this song?
Mine. I think we came up with a consensus. I was usually the one to get everybody enthusiastic to do these dance concerts. Like our freshman year, it was my idea for us to do The Look by Roxette, which was a lot of fun. And then
did you have like shirts that said The Look on them?
I think so. I mean,
we would had eyes or something.
Glitter puff paint.
Probably, yeah. We would do a costume for each year. And you know what? I'm not going to take total ownership of "Cry Little Sister." I think it really kind of came to all of us because it was me and Amy and Lena, and then another girl we'd gone to school with. And I don't know. We probably were watching Lost Boys over the summer or something, and it kind of came to us like, "Oh my God, this is so cool!" And we were all into, MTV Rock at the time, and
This was. I remember you have to remember in 1992. Music was definitely changing in a sense where more hip hop and everything was becoming a lot more prominent on MTV and everything. So for you guys to do this dance,
oh yeah, we stood out.
You stood out.
We stood out every year, but we really stood out. I mean,
apparently a lot of rappers have sampled that song, so there you go.
Well, look at that. We were ahead of the curve. But no, we wore black leggings, which was pretty much a standard when you're in dance. But we also, I don't know if you remember this element of our costumes.
No.
We got chains and wrapped chains around our legs and secured them with safety pins.
No, I don't remember
Yeah,
that. It was the most goth thing you've ever done.
It was really awesome. I mean, because in our junior year, we followed it up with Van Halen's Right Now, which was also being used for the Pepsi commercial. So it just kind of was the perfect timing. No, it was a lot of fun, but yeah, we really, I mean, we took ownership of this song. And
Wow.
this movie really has this special place in my heart for that. But has the movie aged well? Not really.
Has the song aged well?
Well, I mean...
It doesn't have cheesy saxophone.
There is no cheesy saxophone.
It's actually not that terrible song.
And I mean, and it's got that really cool element of like kind of the choir in the background, you know, with the younger kid, the younger girls, and anyways.
There's some other. I just also want to point out there's some really good INXS songs on here. That's not like clear singles that like everyone hear of, but there's some great. I mean, that's another band from the '80s that totally ended too soon. That has done so many great songs that are just a lot of fun, really well written, and everything. And definitely check out those songs from the soundtrack.
There's also a cover by a band who I love, but I hate this cover.
Oh, you don't like People Are Strange by Echo and the Bunnymen?
No.
Why not?
Because I like the original.
I highly agree too.
Oh.
It's hard to listen to the cover of the song and not have that Ray Manzarek solo in it, the keyboard solo in it. They just don't do it. They just don't do it at all, or they don't do it justice.
Yeah.
It's
not the same.
It's not horrible, but I'm not a huge fan. I do find it funny that they have a Doors poster in the cave, but when they play a cover of this song.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it's going to be Jim Morrison, though. I mean, he probably was a vampire for all we know.
Probably. He's great.
He probably, I mean, he's not dead. He's still he's the ultimate recluse. There you go.
Yeah.
I want to bring up something fun for Nancy which you probably won't be surprised by, but I know you're a huge Buffy the Vampire Slayer fan of the TV
Love
show.
it.
Apparently, Joss Whedon, when he was making this show, like, it was a huge, like, inspiration for him. Like, he used some stuff from it, for sure. He's totally admits to stealing.
I love that. That's really great.
Yeah.
I mean, again, as a blueprint, and when you think about it, this movie is about teenage vampire killers. Like, teenage vampire hunters. So, Buffy the Vampire Slayer was a teenage vampire killer, so...
Yeah. And apparently when they cast the movie, that they wanted it to skew younger, the vampires to skew younger, but like Goonies had just came out and stuff, and they didn't want it to be like, oh hey, you know, here's Goonies, but they're vampires. So,
yeah, because Goonies was only 2 years before.
Yeah, you had about 2 years difference, and
they kind of ended up making them a little older.
And the Corey Feldman connection.
Although, you know what though, I think it makes sense. I really like that within this movie. Because, again, we are brother and sister. We are 3 school years apart, but basically 2
It's probably about the same
biological years apart.
It's probably about the same age difference.
Yeah.
A lot of it is very similar.
Yeah, and there are very big differences between an older sibling and a younger sibling. And there's plenty of times when a younger sibling will do something that's in direct opposition of what an older sibling is doing just to differentiate who they are. So Michael becomes a vampire, and Sam becomes a vampire killer.
Are you trying to bring up anything specific?
No, not at all. I'm just saying that. I mean, it. I like that in this movie that the vampires are like the older kids. You know, I mean, obviously we don't know how old they are because vampires live forever, and you never die, and you never get old, and whatever. So they could have been like 80-year-old vampires. They were probably like 50-year-old vampires or something, and would have been, you know, well into their corporate careers or something, and it's a good thing that they became vampires or something.
It's really hard to tell, though, because they don't really... One thing that you see during the opening credits that is trying to kind of tell a story that they later revisit is while they're showing all the scenes of Santa Carla and all the different people, and while they're playing People Are Strange, they're showing all these like punk rock kids and, you know, homeless people and whatnot, hippies and stuff like that. But you're always seeing flyers for missing children everywhere.
Yeah.
And and then later a police officer or a security guard gets killed by the vampires, and then like the wife is like putting up a missing persons sign up of him on a billboard with all these other missing persons and then later Michael is drinking milk and it pans onto the milk carton, and Laddie is the missing kid on the milk carton. We don't know how recent it is, but you're kind of made to believe like either all these kids or all these people are being killed by the vampires, or they're like trying to get recruited.
I think a majority of them are being killed.
Probably.
I don't think that many are being turned because it looks like the initiation process is kind of intense.
I don't know. Hey, drink this blood.
But I think they had this. I don't know though. I mean, there's something weird about the way that.
I have a lot of questions about vampires.
Yeah, okay.
How that whole thing, how they became a vampire, like that always that movie has been confusing to me. And also, like, they're just eating real food sometimes. Just
when they have Chinese food.
Well, then they were eating at another point, I think, too. Which I'm
were
sure.
Did they like go get Blondie's pizza or something?
I don't remember what. I don't remember what it was they were eating, but yeah, I don't know. Just confusing to me. But that doesn't. I mean, all vampire movies are different. I mean, they don't sparkle in the sun.
Well, there's another thing that really bothers me about this movie. Their fangs are not in the right spot. They're not where fangs would normally be. They're like the eye teeth and not like the fang teeth. I'm talking weird because I have my fingers in my mouth. But anyway,
a lot of vampires in movies though they have them there.
It's wrong.
That's
not where the
met
fangs
one,
go. That
you and Vlad are friends.
It's wrong. It's wrong. Have you ever looked at a dog or another animal?
Oh, no,
that's not where the fangs are.
I fully agree with you. It's always bothered me too, but it's not the first time I think that's happened.
Do you have any other issues with like the vampire question? I mean, I just still think that the whole like star having to lure them in, and is that how new members of the vampire gang?
That's one of the ways, and then they have to like well
they have to really
I mean, have they all had sex with her? Is that part of it too?
Well, no, they drink the blood and then they become like half vampire, and then they have to have their first kill, and then they become a full vampire. Here's where it gets really confusing. At no point do we see Laddie kill anybody, but then he goes full on vampire with the teeth and everything.
I think he was one already. I think it's one of those things where it's like they only turn when they need to, kind of a thing. But I mean, when you're talking about how luring them in, to quote Edward from Twilight, everything invites you in. Our look, our smell, our taste, even our voice.
Oh boy.
So there you go.
I know nothing of the Twilight world. I've never seen any of them or read any of the books. So
I know only what I've been forced to watch.
I'm not a huge Twilight fan, but
it's okay.
Definitely,
but you can be our Twilight expert for this panel.
But I'm a huge vampire movie fan, that's for sure, and vampire fan in general.
Yeah.
So, which I think both of you also are big fans.
What? Okay, let's just throw this out there because I just thought of this. This wasn't something I had planned. What is your favorite vampire movie?
I was gonna, same question.
I mean, this would definitely be probably in my top 5, only because I have like the relationship to it, not just doing this, but like seeing it so young. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot out there. I mean, there's like a million different versions of Dracula. There's Interview with the Vampire. There's tons of them that have come out and that we've all seen pre us being born and after.
I mean, I can only think of 3 really right now, and 3 that I would consider, which would be this one, Interview with the Vampire, or Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman.
That's great. Yeah,
those would be the 3. Because while I like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the television show, I did not care for the movie.
It's funny because I love the movie.
The movie's great.
No, I haven't watched it.
I have to rewatch it.
I need to watch
Luke
it.
Perry.
I love the movie. But see, now you love the TV show, so it might be hard for you to go back and without her being Buffy. That different.
That's true. Chrissy Swanson was a different
versus Sarah Michelle Gellar. I mean, I know Blade exists, and I've seen Blade, but I haven't really seen it in a long time, so I can't really talk about it.
I would say, like, I really like the first Blade. The other two,
Not good.
I've only seen the second one, I think.
The second one, not very good. The third one, highly unwatchable. I mean, you've got Ryan Reynolds, upgrade, but then you also have a whole bunch of badness. It's just not as good. But I will say, but I do really like the first Blade. I gotta put From Dusk Till Dawn in there as, you know, a great fun vampire movie. Nothing to take that seriously in that movie, but George Clooney, Selma Hayek, Harvey Keitel, you know, that's a fun one.
Well, what's fun about that movie is when it came out and you watched it, you didn't know what was going to happen in that movie. I didn't know when I watched it what was going to happen
that's
in
cool.
that movie.
So it was like a shock to see the vampires?
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Now there is a new television show about vampires, which is basically in the style of Parks and Rec and The Office, called What We Do in the Shadows,
Yes.
that I watched this summer, and it is fantastic.
Based on a movie.
Based on a movie. I haven't seen the movie, but What We Do in the Shadows, the television show, is hilarious. It is so good. I can't recommend it more. It's so good.
I also wanted to mention that since we're talking, you mentioned a television show about vampires, coming out either this year or next year, television version of The Lost Boys is coming out.
Interesting.
So
that'll be really interesting to see how they do that in modern time.
Well, they could probably do it very similar. I mean, there's been other
Wait
ones,
a second,
Vampire Diaries.
Wait a second.
I mean, lots of different television shows.
Except, you know, a big thing about Lost Boys is that it is set in the late 80s, and tracking people down was way harder to do than it is now. I mean, people can track you down on your cell phone now. People can know, like, parents can know where their kid is if they've got their phone on them. So this whole idea of where did these missing children go is a lot harder to sell.
We'll see how this goes.
It'll be interesting.
That'll be interesting.
There's just so many, like,
there's
great,
tons of them.
like,
I think
you know, you got, like you mentioned, Blade, Nosferatu, the original Dracula with Bela Lugosi, awesome.
I also like the Christopher Lee version. That's pretty good too.
Yeah,
I mean, to find your best, your favorite vampire movie, that's tough. But maybe we'll bring up that discussion at another time when we can.
I'm sure
do
we'll
some
be
more
talking.
research.
We'll probably be talking about another vampire movie in the future, anyways.
I can almost guarantee it.
I
Yeah.
hear Let the Right One In is very good, and I've always wanted to watch it, but I haven't gotten to it yet.
Oh yeah, let's add that to the list. So, what is your favorite scene in this movie?
Yeah, my favorite scene, I think, is the whole sequence when Michael's turned.
Everything in the cave.
Everything in the cave, and then when they take him to the railroad track and he's hanging, that's after he's drunk the blood, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So everything from when he's lured to the cave and when he comes crashing onto his bed, like he falls into the fog, and then they cut to him falling onto his bed. Like that whole 7 minutes is my favorite part of the movie.
From like when he tries to get Star, like he meets Star and he talks to her and he's like gets her on the bike and they're like, and like then Kiefer and the crew ride up, and they're like, Star, where you going, Star? Star. And then he tells Michael, like, Michael's like, I can't beat your bike. He's like, you don't have to beat me. You just got to keep up. Like, come on, just be part of the crew. From that point on until the whole scene on the train scene and falling on the bed.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's probably my favorite part. That's also my favorite part because that is the longest period of time through the movie that we have no Corys.
This is true.
You're gonna love my scene.
The comic book shop scene.
That scene is great. No, it's when what's Corey Haim's character's name?
Corey Haim is
Sam.
Sam, that's right, Sam. When he calls them to go, we have a problem. Like I think my brother might be a vampire. He's like, ask them all those questions. It's just so funny.
And then they're like, well, first you got to get a steak and drive it right through his heart. He's like, that's my brother. You can't do that. That's my brother.
Have bad breath,
Well, he's always got bad breath.
right? He's like,
I almost kind of feel like I'm going to just throw Corey Haim in there too. Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, and young man who I don't know, playing the other Frog Brother, they are the comic relief for this movie.
Oh, sure.
Everything else in this movie is serious and almost tinges on horror movie kind of level.
Yeah.
If it's not for those three clowns in this movie, I mean, come on.
that's what makes it great because it has those parts too. Yeah.
And I would agree too. Like they're the younger ones, so it kind of has that Goonies factor. It kind of has that kind of a difference in age kind of factor. Yeah, that whole scene. I mean, I love Corey Feldman in Goonies, and I like him in this movie. But they are like they change the tone so much in the movie. It's not that it's bad. It's just the tone changes in a very the whole scene that's like I can't watch and I was cringing while watching it and it made me super awkward was when they had when Edward Herrman's character comes to the house. And they're trying to test whether he's a vampire
dinner?
or not.
Oh my
He's
God.
over for dinner, and like
They put the raw garlic.
put the raw garlic instead of the Parmesan cheese, and then they throw water on him, and it's holy water, and he doesn't burn.
And then they shove a mirror in his face.
They shove a mirror in his face. That whole scene.
Why is that? Why doesn't he burn with the holy water? It bothers me.
Because
Inconsistencies, Joel Schumacher.
No, because
He's the OG.
No, because when you invite a vampire...
That's right.
Now, I'm going to give you my own personal story on this. One night, I was listening to a late-night radio show where it was around Halloween and everything was kind of goth and dark wave and industrial themed.
Was it Black Planet?
It was Black Planet.
Nice.
And...
Shout out to Nako.
And we were... I was listening to it. Sherry was not home. You had gone to like a concert or something. I was listening to it, and they had a contest. If you called in and could tell us, what not to do to a vampire from Lost Boys that they tell you in Lost Boys, what not to do, you'll win something. And I called in, and I got it right. What you do not do is you do not invite a vampire into your house because it renders you powerless.
Yep.
Silly boy.
That is exactly what they did. Michael invited him in, so anything they tried, holy water, garlic, any of that stuff, was not going to work.
He was
Is that when you won that
impervious.
Gothic box set?
I did win the
That was
Gothic box
awesome.
set with the
corset.
corset case.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
That thing is awesome. You love all that. You love all the music.
It was like 3 or 4 discs. It was awesome. Anyway, that is why none of that worked, and that is why that scene ended up being like super awkward and cheesy. Just knowing like you guys are dumb children.
Well, I'm going to throw out that I don't know if the world would have ever had the Twilight series if it weren't for Lost Boys.
Oh, for sure.
Because Twilight's geared towards teenagers, right? And it's about teenagers.
Yes.
I think that this is something that we should definitely look into. But I mean, this might be like the first like real teenage centered vampire movie where it was like, this is not a movie for adults to go watch. This is a movie that we want teenagers to watch.
Because The Hunger is definitely not
No. Well, I mean, the Dracula movies are. I mean, there was tons of like
not like
B movie
this,
spin-offs like Bride of Dracula and all this other kind of stuff that obviously teenagers would watch. But I mean, where teens were the center in characters. I mean, because then you got the Interview with a Vampire, where you have Kirsten Dunst, who's like 8.
No, she's
like
I think
10.
Yeah.
And so that'll be interesting to look into. One last thing, I mean, we've talked about this movie a lot. This has been fun.
This has been a longer, more lively discussion than I think any of us anticipated.
If anyone ever goes to Santa Cruz, We highly recommend that there's a map that you can look at online that will show certain areas where scenes were filmed. So you can go and drive Westcliff Drive, where you see some of the opening scenes of the movie. There is a shot of a supermarket with a whale sticking out. It's kind of a side, just kind of little cut during the opening sequence. That supermarket you can go to. It is still in Santa Cruz. It has a whale painting on the side of it now. Unfortunately, this movie came out in 1987, and then in 1989, there was a huge earthquake, the Loma Prieta earthquake, which was centered around Santa Cruz, and a lot of Santa Cruz was really destroyed. And one of the things that you can't really go to now is the comic book store, which is called, I believe it's Atlantic Fantasyland or Atlantis Fantasyland, and that was originally on Pacific Avenue, but unfortunately it did not survive the earthquake. But the owner revived the comic book store on Cedar Street in Santa Cruz, and you can go there and visit it. He has the vampire comics that the Frog Brothers show Sam. Those are not real comics. Those are ones that they made just for the movie. He has copies of those at the comic book store signed by the cast, and you can go and see them, and he'll take a picture with you. You can go online. He's got pictures of people from all over the world who love this movie posing with him in the comic books, which is really cool. The bridge scene actually was not filmed in Santa Cruz. Mm-hmm. It was filmed on a bridge in Southern California, but there is a bridge similar to it next to the boardwalk, which people think is the bridge
I've always
from the movie,
until you told me
but it is not. And then, obviously, there's the boardwalk, which is all the scenes that were the beach scenes and and where there's the carnival stuff. All of that stuff is at the boardwalk. The carousel, the Giant Dipper. They still do have concerts on the beach.
Yeah.
So if you are ever in the Santa Cruz area and you love this movie, go and check these places out. It's kind of a fun little trip. Even the scene where the punk rock guy and the girl who are in the car making out, where they get killed, you can go to that point. We've all been there, where you can overlook the boardwalk. That is there.
Take some amazing pictures at night.
Yeah. So I highly recommend that. All right. Anyone else have anything to add to this lively discussion?
Just that I love Santa Cruz.
I do too.
I love Santa Cruz too.
It's a great place. I highly recommend you check it out. I also highly recommend that you check out Lost Boys. I also highly recommend that if anyone out there knows any way of getting us in contact with John Cusack or Joan Cusack so we can ask them about their views on Lost Boys.
Or vampire movies in general.
Or vampire movies in general. Ooh, that's a good question. Are there any John or Joan Cusack vampire movies?
I don't think so.
Why not?
He could have been one of the Lost Boys, though.
I mean, the closest I think maybe is him being in what was that movie where he The Raven, where that was, is that as goth as John ever got? I mean, Joan was in the Addams Family movie.
Yeah.
So I mean, she's gone dark.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure about John. He's done what was that? Identity. That was that.
Yeah,
was that
I want
one?
to see that.
Or
yeah.
1408? Was it 1408?
1402.
1408, or is that the one where he's in the hotel room?
Uh-huh.
So he's done some dark movies.
Yes.
But has he gone vampire dark?
Grosse Point Blank is dark.
Yeah.
Grosse Point Blank is excellent.
There you go. All right. This is Matthew.
This is Nancy.
And Sherry.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening.